So, I don't know if anyone else watches the reality show The Apprentice. Well, in this year's series, the contestants were given the task of creating a video game. And one of the games created was called Arctic Savior. Not Arctic, as in the North Pole. No, the team misspelled the word as Arctic.
Their name is Arctic Savior. If they mean Arctic, then they've forgotten the C.
And none of the contestants noticed this mistake until it was too late.
Arctic, we spelled it right. Arctic, S-A-V-I-O-U-R.
Now, I think most people watching were thinking to themselves, that could never happen with a real video game. But I'm afraid you'd be wrong there. You see, in the last 15 years, huge developer Capcom somehow made 2 disastrous mistakes on 2 different games. On one game, they left a watermark on the front of the game box. And on the other game, they misspelled the game's title on the side of the box. Today, let's look at how both of these extremely funny mistakes happened, and how people reacted when they found out that the video game they just bought had a typo in its name. Part 1. The Watermark. First of all, let's go back to the year 2006, when I was a mere 4 years old and Capcom had just released a game called Okami. Now, Okami is this super artful game directed by Hideki Kamiya, the man who would later create Bayonetta. And as I said, Okami was created by Capcom, but it was actually created by a specific team inside Capcom called Clover Studio. Not long after Okami was released for the PlayStation 2, Clover Studio was shut down, and all of its developers left the company, which left Capcom with a problem. They wanted to bring Okami to Nintendo's new console, the Wii, but none of the game's original developers worked at the company anymore. So Capcom had to find another group of devs willing to take on the project. And the studio they picked was an American studio called Ready at Dawn. Pretty quickly, Ready at Dawn realized that porting Okami to the Wii would be much more difficult than they first thought. And that is because when Okami's original developers left Capcom, Capcom somehow ended up losing most of the game's files in the process. The head of Capcom USA at the time explained, "The first drop of assets we got from Japan were incomplete, very incomplete. So we had to ask Capcom in Japan to go prodding through old hard drives and old computers to see if the assets could be located anywhere. We got a second asset drop which got us most of the missing stuff back, but there were still a few bits missing. In the end, Ready at Dawn ended up having to recreate quite a few art assets from the ground up. But the team pulled through, and in early 2008, Okami was released for the Nintendo Wii. Except on release day, players started noticing something wrong with the game, or rather with the game's box. At first glance, this box looks perfectly normal, but if you zoom in right here, there's an IGN watermark on the cover. IGN, the video game news website. Their watermark can be clearly seen on the front of Okami's box. The only explanation for this bizarre occurrence is that whoever created the design for Okami's box art actually copied one of the images from IGN's website without noticing the IGN watermark on the image. At the time, one player posted online, "How the hell did that happen? Seriously, just check my box. Why is the IGN logo doing there? Capcom asking assets from IGN because they lost their artwork?" And yeah, that does seem like the most likely answer. Capcom didn't have a lot of the original art from Okami, so perhaps IGN's website really was the best place to find art to put on the game's cover. Of course, there was outrage when this was discovered, and credit to Capcom, they responded quickly and well, posting on their official website, "I can honestly say that my worst day at Capcom was this Monday. After releasing Okami for the Wii last week to some great reviews, one of our Okami die-hard fans discovered that the folks who work here at Capcom are, in fact, human and can make mistakes. I'm speaking of the watermark that appeared on the cover of Okami. It's sadly one of those things that's hard to spot if you don't know what you're looking for, but the moment you see it, it becomes obvious and stares you in the face. As fans know, the real art of Okami is on the game disc itself. But given the artistic nature of this game, we'd like the outside of the box to match the beauty contained within. To that end, we're offering a free make-good gift to our fans. If you purchased Okami for the Wii, for a limited time you can choose from one of 3 art pieces below, and Capcom will ship a high-quality version of the box cover straight to your door. Thanks again for being a fan of both Capcom and Okami. However, Capcom's problems weren't quite over yet. There were big delays in shipping out these replacement covers to everyone who filled out the form. So in the end, as one final apology, Capcom didn't just send out the one cover people picked, they sent everyone a copy of each of the 3 new game covers. I think you can probably see that Capcom handled this situation pretty well. But you'd think that after this disaster, they'd be pretty careful to make sure nothing like it could ever happen again. Cut to 4 years later. Part 2. The TYPO. So, the year is now 2012, and Capcom is developing the next game in their super successful Resident Evil series. This new game is being developed for Nintendo's handheld console, the 3DS. Apparently, the development team hoped that the 3D effect of the 3DS would make the game even scarier. Anyway, the name of this game in progress was Resident Evil Revelations. Even in Japan, that Revelations subtitle is spelt out phonetically as an English word. Now, in early January, early copies of the game were sent out in North America to game reviewers, so that they had time to review the game before it launched the following month. And straight away, those game reviewers noticed a glaring issue on the side of the box. Resident Evil Revelations, it said. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that. Revelations? Journalist Dan Ackerman at CNET posted this picture with the caption, "Just got Resident Evil Revelations for 3DS, and they misspelled the name on the side of the case." Pretty soon, it became obvious that this was not an isolated incident. Capcom immediately put out a statement apologizing for their mistake, but their problems weren't quite over yet. On their blog, Capcom explained that the entire initial shipment of games to North America had this issue, which added up to about 90,000 boxes. 90,000 people would pick up their copy of Resident Evil Revelations and notice at some point that the side of the box said Revelatons instead. In that same blog post, Capcom offered customers a replacement cover for the game with the typo fixed, just like with Okami. But they also said this: if you do wind up demanding a corrected sleeve, keep the one with the typo. It might turn into a collector's item one day, and then you can sell it for countless millions. But how on earth did this typo even happen? Well, here's what one of Capcom's higher-ups, Christian Svensson, had to say about it. "I can't even tell you how many people looked at that package and approved it. Nintendo of America, Nintendo Japan, ESRB, I don't know how many people internally, and our guys in Japan. I can't come up with an excuse for it. It just happened. We're not happy about it. There are new processes that were put in place that involve people outside the company. We've redefined who has final say over packaging. I'm cautiously optimistic that we won't be seeing this happen again. It's embarrassing. I can't really sugarcoat it. There are only about 90,000 units that have the misprint. If you've got it and it's shrink-wrapped, that's a new special edition. That's our new strategy." So again, Capcom did manage to fix their mistake in a way by sending out another lot of replacement game covers. But I think that statement I read puts it best. It's embarrassing, which is what makes this story so fun. A huge company like Capcom misspelling their own game's name? It just goes to show that the people making the games we play are only human. And after all, there's nothing more human than making mistakes. Hey, thanks for watching to the end. Both of these stories made me laugh so much when I heard about them that I decided I needed to turn this into a video. Hopefully you found these stories as interesting as I did. Subscribe to this channel for more strange chapters from video game history every week. And for now, I'll see you next time. Bye.